Animals in need of a good home, though we understand that no dog can ever truly replace the one you just lost. I lost a dog once, but my mom was the one who told me about it, and she was quite the comfort. In this week's op-ed pages, Pantene CEO Marcus Russo laments feeling like the only one who gives a shit about rich, lustrous hair. In other news, a study finds that newborn infants can tell if their parents are losers. A man who just assembled a desk is unsure how he has every screw left over. And Jeff Beck is lured into a dark alley with the old guitar pick on a string trick. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. And we're back!
Hey! Playing the part of Richie Rich tonight will be Steve Classic.
Oh, thank you very much, Captain.
Playing the part of Steve Classic will be Big Kahuna.
Wow!
Good evening. Playing the part of Captain Kickass will be Captain Kickass. Yes, it is Free Talk Live. In case you're wondering what we're babbling on about.
Captain's log.
Stardate 05 015 2022. Those are official demarcations now in the captain's log.
Nice
logbook.
Great job, Captain.
Yeah, thank you very little. It was ungratefully depreciated. And when you're moving the mic around, try and hit the
cough button. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So
I'm not used to being over on this second chair.
No, you certainly
I'm a number
are not.
two
You
tonight.
are number two tonight.
Exactly.
We've moved things around. We've had some personnel changes. People need days off, and some people can't get here all the time. I myself included. I missed last Sunday.
Right. Gas prices. I mean, I'm not driving that far.
Gas prices. In fact, on my way into the studio, I saw $4.49 here in New Hampshire.
I paid $4.65 on my way up from Florida a couple days ago.
Wow,
Florida man.
What? Well, you drive a Prius. You probably haven't filled up since last year or something.
I rub the
that.
Prius in everyone's face now. Oh, you got a Prius? You got a Prius? Like, yeah, I got a Prius now. They're all jealous.
I don't have friends, but I have some internet friends that have been taking photos of gas prices. This one is
in New Hampshire.
No, this one's from somewhere outside of Seattle. I'm trying to remember. It's Mount something or another. $5.59 for the cheap stuff.
Gasoline?
Yeah, diesel $6.29.
Wow.
And then this from a gal I know who's taken a trip down to the Los Angeles area. Regular at $6.99, plus is $7.19. V-Power at $7.29 at the Shell station.
A bargain at half the price.
Oh, let's go, Brandon.
Yeah. let's go elsewhere.
I did that. You gave me a bunch of stickers, Kahuna.
I may have done that.
Yeah, those things just fly. You put them on there, and the next day they're gone.
So we could talk about inflation and that kind of thing, but I want to talk first about abolishing the police.
Back the boot.
Because there's no choice in the matter. You don't have any choice. Normally, when you subscribe to a service or you purchase a product or something along those lines, if the organization that you pay to do these things, if they do a crappy job, well, then you can fire them and hire a competing service who has a better reputation, or they more fulfill what it is you're looking for in an organization. Do those kinds of things. When it comes to police, you don't have any choice. It's take it or leave it. Move to another town.
Go to
perhaps.
another town with another bunch of police department.
Right, but it's the same thing. You still have no choice in the matter, and you can't fire them.
No accountability.
There's zero accountability. Who watches the watchers, right? They're going to say, oh, we have internal affairs. Yeah, but what kind of effect do they actually have? And do they prevent horrific things from happening? And the fact of the matter is that the outcome does not suit the amount of money that's put into it, right? The ends do not justify the means. And so things like these, I got 3 different stories here. Things like these continue to happen. We continue to talk about them here on Free Talk Live. There's a whole bunch of other alternative media outlets that are talking about this as well. So this from the Free Thought Project. Jury finds officers at fault for failing to stop fellow cops from beating an innocent teen unconscious. The Cliff Notes on this thing is there's several cops, 3 cops, I believe, involved in this. One cop decided it was a good idea to beat a teen unconscious. The other 2 cops stood around and did nothing about it.
They turned their cameras off, probably.
Well, the story will talk about some of the things that happened, but the Cliff Notes is that I didn't expect this to happen. It doesn't usually happen, but a jury finds those guys who stood around and did nothing. They found them at fault.
Really?
Yeah, which is unusual, right? Usually the courts are on the side of the system and they just go, oh, yeah, whatever, we investigated ourselves and we found we did nothing wrong. So a little bit of an unusual twist, but the real twist here, not twist, but the real outcome here is that the cops themselves who were found at fault are not going to pay anything.
They're on administrative leave.
Right. So there's no punishment for these guys other than administrative leave.
Right. Which means you don't have to show up to work and you still get your money.
They get paid.
You get paid to stay home.
They continue to get paid. They continue to
Pensions.
build towards their pension.
Yep.
They continue to have benefits. Right. But who's going to pay the actual bill here, right? Because if they found them at fault, that means that, let's say the family of this teen sued them or whatever, they're going to be awarded some sum of money.
The city will pay for it.
No, not well. That's what they're going to print in the newspaper,
Right.
of course. But it's not the city. You are the city. The
Right.
people of the city are the city. That's who's going to pay for it.
Taxpayers.
The taxpayers are going to be on the hook for this thing. This is out of Contra Costa County, California. The taxpayers will soon be shelling out some serious settlement money after a teenager was brutally choked until he fell unconscious and then beaten even more afterwards by a cop's flashlight. I don't know if you've seen the cop flashlights.
Oh, those are heavy duty. They're about 12, 18 inches long.
Yeah, and I don't know, what, an inch and a half.
They probably weigh like 10, 15 pounds.
Yeah, mag light, I think.
Oh,
is
yeah.
the common
With D
brand.
batteries in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good and heavy.
Body camera footage from the disturbing incident shows that after the cops beat Ricardo Hernandez, then 19 years old, they lied in their police reports to cover their crimes and justify their false arrest.
Wow.
In one of the first of its kind cases, the jury has found that officers at the scene that night failed to intervene and stop what jurors believe was excessive force by Costa County Sheriff's deputy. It was a traffic stop, apparently. The verdict was made in civil court and calls for Hernandez to receive $500,000 in damages. So, on one hand, okay, great. The dude was wronged. The family sued. The court said, yeah, those guys were in the wrong. We award you $500,000. You would think in a regular situation that would be cool.
Well, what about the psychological damage to the teen?
Yeah. But who's going to pay that $500,000?
The city.
Yeah. Quote, unquote.
Yeah, the city will pay for it.
Not
the
the
insurance
city.
policy will pay for it.
The taxpayers of that city or county are going to pay. According to the lawsuit filed in federal court, Hernandez was a passenger in the backseat of a stolen car, which he did not know was stolen. In fact, none of the occupants knew it was stolen. Sheriff's Deputy Brandon Battles.
Brandon?
Battles.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
That's a cop name. If I ever
Battles.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Payne.
He pulled the car over after noticing it was driving with no lights. When he ran the plates, he found the car was stolen, called for backup. As the video shows, all of the teens were ordered out of the car one by one at gunpoint. Hernandez complied with the orders to walk backward with his hands on his head. However, as the video shows, instead of handcuffing the compliant teen, Battles put him in a cartoid hold, a type of neck restraint. I think
that sounds like a wrestling move.
That's like the
half Nelson or the full Nelson, something like that.
Sounds like an RKO.
And, of course, Hernandez lost consciousness. I don't feel I did anything wrong, Hernandez said. I was a little scared because there were a lot of officers.
Well, yeah.
As Mercury News reported, video from a police body camera received by this news organization shows some of the scene of the arrest, including a clip where at least one deputy can be heard saying, "He's out, he's out, he's out." The lawsuit argues that when the deputy said, "He's out," referring to Hernandez, Battles knew that meant Hernandez was unconscious, but that Battles continued to instruct him to give his left hand behind his back and be handcuffed. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number here if you'd like to weigh in. More Free Talk Live is coming up. It's the Sunday night edition.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Yes, we are back. It is Free Talk Live. It is the Sunday night edition. The telephone number here in the studio, if you'd like to join in the conversation, is 603-283-6160. Again, that telephone number, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it is myself, the Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass. Joining me tonight,
Big Kahuna.
Steve Classic.
And welcome, Big Kahuna, your debut.
Thank you very much.
You're looking tan. You been in the South?
I may have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
It has been sunny around here.
It has. It feels like Florida right now.
Yeah, 85 or something.
Yeah.
The other day.
I think it was 87 in my apartment yesterday.
Yeah. a lot of folks getting yard work done, that kind of stuff.
Getting sunburn.
Yeah, we are talking about. Well, I'm talking about specifically the idea of abolishing the police, because unlike any other service or product, you have no choice in the matter. They claim a monopoly over protection services, over policing services. And we know that people do want protection services. We know that it's important. However, whenever somebody has a monopoly on it, things always go awry. Mm-hmm. And in this first story that we have tonight, we're talking about a 19-year-old gentleman named Hernandez who was beaten unconscious by a police officer. The lawsuit, and then they sued for abuse of police abuse, whatever, that kind of a thing. He was awarded $500,000 in the lawsuit. The lawsuit argues that when the deputy said he's out, when the deputy had choked the guy out, he announced that he's out. Referring to Hernandez, the officer Battles, knew that meant that Hernandez was unconscious, and he continued to instruct him to give his left hand to be handcuffed, even though he couldn't. He's unconscious. It's impossible to do. Right. After the deputies repeatedly demand Hernandez stop resisting in the video, again, impossible to do when you're unconscious, one can be seen hitting him with a flashlight. And we discussed how big a police flashlight is, the Maglite style that they carry. It doubles as a baton. In fact, police are trained to use this flashlight as a baton. The lawsuit alleges that Battle struck Hernandez in the head and neck 6 times with his flashlight, and another deputy, Joseph Anderson, beat Hernandez's right shoulder area.
Good hitting police.
Serving and protecting the crap out of this guy.
Exactly.
Quote, "I will," expletive, "shoot you," a deputy's voice can be heard saying in the video. The lawsuit states that this is the voice of Battles, who had his pistol the head of this unconscious. I think they're typo. Yeah, they missed a word here. It sounds like they hit him in the head with his pistol, as the other guy beat him with the flashlight. So one guy's pistol whipping him, the other guy's beating him with the Maglite
because he's not complying, because he's unconscious. Conscious.
Can't respond.
Right.
Hernandez himself says, "Thank God I'm alive. He was there protecting me because." Referring to God, not the police. He was there protecting me because, in my perspective, I would have been dead. So this guy was obviously, afraid for his life. He thought he was going to die. There's no way to whitewash this, Attorney Kajina said to KTVU. What Deputy Battles did was wrong and egregious, and the fact that no one, including the officers from Richmond PD, did anything to stop him shows that they're liable for this conduct. So congratulations on the ruling. Unfortunately, despite the taxpayers being placed on the hook for nearly 7 figures, none of the officers in the video below faced discipline in this matter. They do enclose a video here. I'll put the link, of course, to this story out on our social media, so social.freetalklive.com, if you want to see the video for yourself. So, I mean, one story like this would be, okay, maybe, Captain, you're getting carried away.
Why do I have a feeling it's not the only story?
This week.
Yeah. This year.
Or, this month.
Decade.
Today.
This century. We cover these types of stories frequently, and we don't cover them all by any stretch of the imagination.
Just a sampling.
Just a very, a small quantity of them actually make it through our show prep and on the air. There are other alternative media outlets that cover these in more depth than we do, cover more of them. Feel free to launch your preferred search engine to find them. But one incident like this, you might, Captain, you're getting abolish the police for this one incident. No, these incidents happen at a frightening rate, more so than what anybody would call a legitimate security incident, right? A response to something where they've actually helped somebody. So, also from the Free Thought Project, this is from May 12th. A 10-year-old girl calls 911 to report her police officer dad for sexually abusing her. Fellow cops cover it up.
Well, come on, man. That's not a real story, is it?
Chicago, Illinois. Frequent readers of the Free Thought Project are all too familiar with the concept of the thin blue line. Though law enforcement claims this line represents the force between good and evil, it is often used as a means to coerce and silence victims of police officers, especially when it comes to domestic abuse. For nearly a decade, TFTP has reported on countless incidents of police officers covering for fellow cops when they commit an act of brutality or when they beat their wives. Victims of domestic violence by police often have nowhere to go, as reporting the crime to their abuser's brothers in blue is a daunting task that could land them in deeper trouble. I say it all the time. The cops are the biggest gang in America.
They're all in on it.
Absolutely.
They all cover for each other.
It's a fraternity.
It is a fraternity.
It's a union.
It's worse than
that.
It's
a fraternity. It's a fraternity.
They pledge to each other before they pledge to the public.
Right.
They will protect each other before they will protect anyone else.
Right.
Which is contrary to, of course, what we're taught in public schools. Right. What's written on the side of their cars: to protect and serve.
Right.
And how often have you seen that? You see it in
community,
movies all the time.
Protecting the communities.
The community, yeah.
Television and movies. They like to drive that home.
Right.
Oh, well, yeah, they're protecting and serving. They're the thin blue line between us and chaos.
Right. Well, I talk to people in Connecticut where, I don't know, it's Connecticut.
Yeah.
It's just as crazy as California. It's just smaller. And it's on the East Coast. But, you got people that are like, oh, yeah, back the blue. And they get, and then they've got the "Don't Tread on Me" sticker on the back of their car. And you try to explain to them that the police are the boot of the "Don't Tread on Me." And they're like, what are you talking about? Well, come on.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. It's
who do you think's going to be doing the treading?
Right. So, then someone said to me, like, the police, they're they're to protect and serve. I said, no, they're there to collect evidence and write reports. That's all they're there to do after a crime. They're not there to protect and serve.
One would think, however, that if a child of a police officer came forward to report that she had been abused sexually, that cops would not be able to sweep it under the rug or look the other way. As the following incident illustrates, however, that is not the case. We'll give you more details about this story coming up. This is Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on Library for years. Library is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, Library launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with President Biden pledging to deepen American engagement in Southeast Asia in a bid to counter China's rise. He welcomed the leaders of ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, to Washington, the first time the city has hosted an ASEAN summit in its 45-year history.
We're committed to a future where the rules and norms that have made possible so much growth and prosperity and stability in the Indo-Pacific are upheld and strengthened. And as we look around the world, all the challenges we're facing, the ASEAN-U.S. partnership is critical, I think, to meeting the moment we find ourselves in history right now.
President Biden on Friday also met Jordan's King Abdullah, and he spoke on the phone to the leaders of Finland and Sweden. Both countries are applying for NATO membership in light of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Russians aren't pleased. FSN's Stuart Smith covered that story from our Moscow bureau, where he works within the Kremlin's reporting restrictions.
It was clear that Russia wouldn't be happy, and indeed the Kremlin has come out and said that Finland's accession to NATO will be a threat to Russia. Consider that Russia considers NATO a military alliance that is not just defensive and doesn't just defend itself, but also is aggressive.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson in Helsinki hailed the concept of NATO expansion.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine has changed the equation of European security, and it has rewritten our reality and reshaped our future.
But on Friday, NATO member Turkey indicated it was not happy about the alliance promising a swift and smooth entry process for Finland and Sweden. The US passed a tragic milestone this week.
The loss of 1 million American lives due to COVID-19. 1 million lives.
Vice President Kamala Harris making that announcement at a global COVID summit.
Today and every day, we remember them, of course, and we honor them.
The White House also had to deal with a nationwide shortage of baby formula that further threatened to depress President Biden's approval ratings. New White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
So ensuring that infant formula is safe and available for families across the country is a top priority to the White House. This is an urgent issue that the FDA, as you all know, and the White House is working 24/7 to address.
But it could be weeks before supplies return to normal. Al Jazeera reporter Shireen Abu Akleh, a fixture on the network's Middle East coverage for years, was killed in the West Bank town of Jenin on Wednesday. Al Jazeera called it an act of blatant murder by Israeli troops. The US called for a full investigation of a killing it said was an affront to media freedom everywhere. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
Yes, we are back.
Filling in for Richie Rich. That's great.
Yes, he's here vicariously through Steve Classic. Yes, it is Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160. We'll get to your calls and thoughts momentarily. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Big Kahuna.
Steve Classic.
And we are talking about, well, I'm talking about abolishing the police, and I have three different stories about horrible police that one is a follow-up.
You're such a downer. And no good news about the police?
Is there ever?
I don't know.
I mean, here's the deal with police. Some people say, oh, it's a few rotten apples that spoil the barrel. Well, they spoil the whole barrel. Right?
Right.
If police were to actually do something about their reputation and help it out, like I'm certain people will call and say, well, what do you think should be done, Captain? You're so smart. What should, okay, well, here, if cops really want to improve their reputation, all they need to do is get together with all their other cop buddies on their little cop chats or whatever they use to communicate with each other.
Squad cars.
Yeah, or get on their radios,
Radio, yeah.
okay, this is an all-officer bulletin, and go, we're going to stop
Stop pistol whipping people and
We're gonna stop abusing people.
Stop beating down people with their mag lights.
And also, we're going to stop arresting anybody for victimless crimes.
Absolutely.
That would make an immediate improvement across the board. I don't care what department you're in. If you're, just a town cop, or if you're in a large city, if all of you police would get together and act simultaneously to just stop harassing people for victimless crimes, then you would immediately improve the entire situation. But you don't do that. And so we continue to have these stories because you have a monopoly on the use of violence. And the people have no choice in the matter. If you do a crappy job as a police officer, the people have no choice. They can't stop paying you. They can't subscribe to a different service.
Can't fight back.
I mean,
you can, but you'll be beaten senseless.
Severe consequences.
Yeah, I mean, they will beat you for doing so, and they purport the authority to kill you for doing so. So
he thought he had a gun. He was reaching for a cell phone or whatever. It's nuts.
I don't know how many times we've covered those types of stories. Before we go on, I want to tell you that Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. You can go there now, click on Get Started at the top of the page. When you do that, you'll find all sorts of valuable information neatly organized to suit your needs. There's no longer any excuse to ignore this important and world-changing information. If you are an eligible crypto user already, you can check out news.bitcoin.com and get the latest headlines for all the news that's relevant to you. Bitcoin.com is your source for everything crypto, like getting a wallet, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news on a very slick and easy-to-use website. Please visit bitcoin.com. All right. I had just begun this second article talking about a 911 call from a 10-year-old girl. Says her dad is sexually abusing her. Her dad happens to be a cop, and the fellow cops cover it up. Well, this story is out of Chicago, Illinois. One would think that if a child of a police officer came forward to report that she had been abused sexually, that cops would not be able to sweep it under the rug or look the other way. However, that doesn't seem to be the case. In March, a 10-year-old girl called 911 and told dispatchers that her father, a veteran Chicago cop, had sexually abused her. The victim was scared and called 911. Responding officers would later report, according to the Chicago Sun-Times, adding that the actions she described were sexual in nature. The officer's arrest started out normal, and it appeared that he would be held accountable. He was taken into custody, according to the arrest report, for aggravated criminal sexual abuse by a family member, which is a serious felony charge. But after spending several hours in jail, he would be released on zero bail with new charges of domestic battery, a mere misdemeanor. We can talk more about it. You had something to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's typical. I mean, think about the monopoly, an organization with power. Another similar organization would be religion. We see similar things happening, and it's a pattern.
It is. Yeah, when you have the power, what's the phrase? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Exactly.
Because the police force has a monopoly on violence, a monopoly on policing services, nothing ever gets remedied, right? So this guy's not going to get fired, right? The company's not going to go out of business because they provided a poor service.
Absolutely
right?
not.
It's going to continue to go on. We could talk more about that. Let's go to Rob calling from Vermont. Rob, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so bad cops. It's important, Captain, that, bad cops didn't just start, a couple, 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
Bad cops started, long before any one of us on this show, myself and you guys, before we were ever thought of, and what about the times out there that the police committed crimes and they got away with it? Like, for instance, the, 72, 73-year-old guy that was living in New Hampshire, went ahead and stabbed to death that little girl, and then moved all the way to hell down to Tennessee or wherever the hell it was, and they found him through DNA.
Yep.
You could go on and on with this Captain Wenatchee, the Wenatchee witch hunt.
Yeah, and you bring up a very good point, Rob, and that is for every story that does make it to the airwaves here on Free Talk Live or through an alternative media outlet such as the Free Thought Project or Cop Watch or Cop Block or any of the other alternative medias that do report on these stories. For everyone, how many of them go unheard? How many of these stories are never told? How many of these atrocities are they getting away with on a daily basis in your town?
Well, I mean, like I said, over in Wenatchee, Washington, I mean, them stories go back to the 1980s and 1990s,
right?
Where this detective, just like going up to a tree and picking out apples, he was picking out people out of churches and everything.
Yeah.
And it's just, and the lives of these people, this detective has long since has died, but the people that didn't do these crimes are still suffering.
Yeah, and they will. This guy is going to suffer for a much longer time, even though he's going to be awarded some money. And thank you for the call, Rob. We appreciate it.
Well, I mean, he says, like, even going back to the 80s and 90s. What if you go back to the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, the 40s? All the way back.
Generations.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a symptom of the fact that the organization is a monopoly. You only get these kinds of things when you have a monopoly.
Right. You can't cancel, like you can cancel your cable bill, you can't cancel your police bill.
And it's a monopoly combined with the power and the authority.
Yes.
That's a deadly, literally combination.
Government goons with guns. Oh, I can't say that.
No, you can.
Oh, I can't.
And you just did.
Yeah,
and it's an accurate statement.
Right, they've got guns.
No apologies necessary. I mean, every law is a gun. Every law is backed. I mean, it's a piece of paper, but behind that piece of paper is a gun.
Right.
Hiding behind it. And if you violate that law, okay, maybe they send you a letter, right? Maybe they show up at your house.
They'll fine you.
That kind of a thing. But if you don't pay the fine, eventually these costumed guys with shiny badges
will show
up and they will want to take you away. And if you resist that, they will end your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's intimidation as well. The whole persona, the whole uniform, the mannerisms,
jackboots, the glasses.
Yeah, it's everything.
603-283-6160. Do you believe that it is time to abolish the police? Give us your thoughts. This is Free Talk Live. More coming up.
If you're looking for work, the person you are applying to may be even more nervous than you are. And the way things are now, your references have never been more important. Here are 3 tips. First, know that employers are checking. Every hire is under the microscope these days. Second, they won't just be checking references you provide. Figure that all of your ex-employers will get a call and be asked, would you hire him or her again? Third, assume you will be Googled. So before you apply, remove all those party animal photos from your Facebook page. Even if you're not in the job market, effective communication skills have never been more important, with money and attention so scarce now. For more tips for job seekers and getting better results in all your day-to-day communication, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
There's only one place you could have sex without everybody else knowing about it. That's in the bathroom. Unless you want to go back into the crew quarters, which might give you bonus points. The Mile High Club awards you, I suppose, based on the amount of times that you've entered into the club. Not only do you want to be in the club, you want to be the top dog.
Yeah,
right?
you got to be a premier member.
So I would think there'd have to be points for location on the plane, who you encountered with. Were you there with your girlfriend? Did you take her into the bathroom? Did you manage to get a stewardess into the bathroom with you? Did you manage to get the girl that you just happened to be sitting next to on the plane? I mean, so all of these things could be worth.
Oh, man. To be a part of the Mile High Club, what's the criteria?
You have to
copulate in the air.
Yeah.
What defines copulation? Who has to have an orgasm? Does there have to be an orgasm?
Or do you just have to stick it in and pull it out?
Is it just penetration? Bam, bam. We're out of here. Mile High Club, give me my card.
Yeah.
You know?
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
Yes, we are back. And front and side. I'm not bottom or top, though. You guys can,
No, thank you.
Rochambeau over that one. This is Free Talk Live. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. We'll get to your calls and thoughts momentarily for those of you who are on hold right now. In the studio tonight, it is myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me tonight,
Big Kahuna.
Steve Classic.
And we're talking about, I'm talking about...
Why do you say we're talking about it? Then you say I'm talking about?
Well...
I thought, aren't we all talking about it? No, maybe it's just you that's talking about it.
It's a conversation. Yeah, usually, I don't want to speak for you guys is really why I say that.
Okay,
so,
all right. I thought we're all talking about it.
And like I say, I'm talking about because the bigger picture, if you will, is my desire to see police as they exist today abolished. I would like them to be replaced with market services.
Right, like an on-demand, I want to rent this movie, I want to rent the police.
Yes, right. Yes. I want to subscribe to a service.
Right.
Have a security service provider instead of an internet service provider. I could have a security service provider.
Outsource it.
I could subscribe to a package that fit my individual needs instead of, doesn't matter who you are, you're paying the same, regardless, right?
Yeah.
Some people need more of these services than others. Some people need less. I'd be able to tailor one to my budget. You'd be able to tailor one to yours.
Right.
Right. We're all individuals.
Like if AAA, if you break down, you can subscribe to the service and pay right there.
Right.
Then you get the 1-year plan.
You got the silver, the gold, the platinum.
Right. You can buy it on demand.
So it's not rocket surgery or brain science. Or wait, brain surgery, rocket
brain
science?
surgery.
No, anyway, we'll talk more about, we've been talking about, we talked
You've
about one
been
story.
talking about it.
We talked about one story where a jury has found some officers at fault for failing to stop another cop from beating an innocent teen with a police flashlight, a mag light, if you will. And then we had started this story about a 10-year-old girl who called 911 to tell dispatchers that her father, a veteran Chicago cop, was sexually abusing her. And the story hasn't gotten into it, but apparently the cops covered this up, as they are wont to do. So we'll talk more about that. We'll get more into that story. But first, let's go to Jill. Jill, you're on Free Talk Live.
As I understood it, they don't really have an absolute monopoly. I mean, if somebody is beating on you or somebody is breaking into your home and you've got the weapon and you don't, and the police aren't there and you don't have time to wait for them, you are allowed to act for yourself.
Well, of course, self-defense. But what if it's the cops doing it to you?
Well, I would imagine you could do it then, too.
Yeah, the courts don't always see it that way, though.
And you also have to be careful.
I think the cases you reported are absolutely outrageous, and they should be severely punished.
Agreed.
You also have to know your laws in your state. Some states have the stand your ground, castle doctrine, this sort of thing. Others don't. And if you don't do the right thing, you're going to be the one in trouble.
That's right.
I believe under the Second Amendment, they all ought to have those. It's the federal Constitution.
Well, yeah, but we know what politicians and courts like to use the Constitution for, and it's a replacement for your Charmin. Thanks for the call tonight, Joe.
Want to hear
we appreciate you.
Want to hear a good ATF joke?
Sure.
Knock, knock. Oh, never mind. Okay, Captain continues.
Let's go to Jet in Idaho. Jet, you're on Free Talk Live.
Okay, well, the main thing you need to know about police and cops and other people calling themselves law enforcement is that they're just other humans, just other people who are not morally superior. And the laws that they enforce are just the opinions of a small group, a very small group of men and women who are not morally superior either. And as well, many of them, most of them are dead, fired, retired, whatever. They don't exist anymore. So, in other words, the laws don't apply to me.
They do if they say they do.
Well, that's in any situation. In other words, if someone walks up to you on the street and says, "I own you," I mean, you're owned if you're not able to take care of yourself. But I have some other scenarios that go along with the abortion thing, if I might.
Okay.
Okay, so scenario number one. You come upon an accident where there is a person struggling to get free. The car looks like it's going to be on fire. So we have, let's say, three choices. Do we help them succeed? Do we shut the door on them and watch them burn? Or do we do nothing and watch them burn? Scenario number two. We come upon someone drowning, struggling to stay alive. So do we help them succeed? Do we push them under? Or do we stand by and do nothing and just watch them drown? Scenario number three.
Mm-hmm.
We come upon a blob in the womb struggling to mature into a child.
That happened to me on the way to the show tonight. No,
Yeah.
it didn't. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do we help them grow? Do we cut the life cord, or we do nothing? So
yeah, I don't think you're comparing apples to apples there, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. But why is it everybody's responsibility to enforce this decision on other people?
Well, it's a choice, and of course you do have.
Well,
the
no,
choice
it
to do
isn't.
nothing.
If one way or the other way is forced upon people, if abortion is made illegal, then it's all going to go underground. Abortions are still going to happen, right? But now you're forcing one preference amongst everybody. Whereas if it's completely legal, then people can make their own decision.
Well, I'm thinking that. Well, you know how Picos was saying that life begins when someone takes a breath. What about in the drowning situation where someone loses their breath? Does the spirit exit, and then if you bring them back to life, the spirit comes back in? It's things like that. This is why I maintain that human cells growing to be another human are simply human, And if we value this thing we call human life, we have to protect its potential. And if we cut the cord before it can take its first breath, we're prohibiting its ability to enjoy life.
I was thinking about this further last night after the show was over, and it occurs to me, of course, one thing that I learned, I at some point in my life when I was young went to school for recording engineering. You know how to operate a board in a recording studio.
You're doing
bands,
it. You're
like
doing
that.
it. Look at that.
Yeah.
Paid off.
And so what I learned is the word transduction or transducing, right? And I like to say that because deuce. Well, right?
I'm number two.
Transducing.
Number two.
Anyway, my point is that all that happens in the audio world is energy never begins or ends. It's only transduced. Right. It only changes from one form of energy to another. So in that respect, life just exists. It never begins or ends. There is no beginning or end to it, because when you die as a human being, when you die, sure, you might have breathed your last breath or taken your last breath, but your body decomposes, right? Maybe you get incinerated, or maybe your body gets buried and you start to decompose. But all of that is contributing to the rest of the life cycle on planet Earth in some way, shape, or form. So does life have a beginning and an end is an even bigger question.
Well, I like your term. You might be able to modify a little bit to call it the life force.
Mm-hmm.
That way you can talk about its never beginning and never ending. Yeah, because it could fall into that thing we call energy. Energy can never be created or destroyed. I mean, that's what we think.
Right.
Anyway. But I don't know. Just wanted to add that there are other situations in life where we have to make a choice, whether to help someone survive or whether to do nothing, or whether to, worse, keep them from experiencing life. So,
hey, thanks for the call.
All I had.
We appreciate it. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number if you would like to join us. Let's go to Bad Slave in New Hampshire. Bad Slave, you're on Free Talk Live.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I am happy to be on the phone with you. Listen, I want to say that, let's back away a little bit from, this whole security thing and look at the fact that what's happening.
Hey, Bad Slave, can you hang on?
Yeah,
All right.
I'll hang.
We'll keep you over. I know you had thoughts to get out, so stand by. 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live. More coming up.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with President Biden pledging to deepen American engagement in Southeast Asia in a bid to counter China's rise. He welcomed the leaders of ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, to Washington, the first time the city has hosted an ASEAN summit in its 45-year history.
We're committed to a future where the rules and norms that have made possible so much growth and prosperity and stability in the Indo-Pacific are upheld and strengthened. And as we look around the world, all the challenges we're facing, the ASEAN-U.S. partnership is critical, I think, to meeting the moment we find ourselves in history right now.
President Biden on Friday also met Jordan's King Abdullah, and he spoke on the phone to the leaders of Finland and Sweden. Both countries are applying for NATO membership in light of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Russians aren't pleased. FSN's Stuart Smith covered that story from our Moscow bureau, where he works within the Kremlin's reporting restrictions.
It was clear that Russia wouldn't be happy, and indeed the Kremlin has come out and said that Finland's accession to NATO will be a threat to Russia. Consider that Russia considers NATO a military alliance that is not just defensive and doesn't just defend itself, but also is aggressive.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson in Helsinki hailed the concept of NATO expansion.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine has changed the equation of European security, and it has rewritten our reality and reshaped our future.
But on Friday, NATO member Turkey indicated it was not happy about the alliance, promising a swift and smooth entry process for Finland and Sweden. The US passed a tragic milestone this week.
The loss of 1 million American lives due to COVID-19. 1 million lives.
Vice President Kamala Harris making that announcement at a global COVID summit.
Today and every day, we remember them, of course, and we honor them.
The White House also had to deal with a nationwide shortage of baby formula that further threatened to depress President Biden's approval ratings. New White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
So ensuring that infant formula is safe and available for families across the country is a top priority to the White House. This is an urgent issue that the FDA, as you all know, and the White House is working 24/7 to address.
But it could be weeks before supplies return to normal. Al Jazeera reporter Shireen Abu Akleh, a fixture on the network's Middle East coverage for years, was killed in the West Bank town of Jenin on Wednesday. Al Jazeera called it an act of blatant murder by Israeli troops. The US called for a full investigation of a killing it said was an affront to media freedom everywhere. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. US markets will be hoping to recover from heavy losses seen last week as concerns over rising inflation and weakening economic growth continue. New retail sales figures are also due to be released. With the preview from FSN's business desk in New York, Sarah Walton.
A slump in the US markets has now wiped off much of the rapid gains made by stocks as they rebounded from their pandemic lows of March 2020. And while the Federal Reserve has begun a series of interest rate hikes to curb price increases, Fed Chair Jerome Powell last week said he couldn't guarantee inflation can be brought down without causing a recession. Nevertheless, analysts S&P Global's Purchasing Managers Index, which is an indicator of economic health for the manufacturing and service sectors, suggests growth continued at a solid pace in March, although inflation, supply chain disruptions and the war in Ukraine have all led to a decrease in business confidence.
Scientists in the US have taken a giant leap towards supporting human outposts on other worlds after growing plants in lunar soil for the first time. With that story, FSN's Benji Haya.
NASA believes these extraordinary findings amount to a major breakthrough, one that's critical to its long-term exploration goal of using material found on the moon to develop food sources for future astronauts living or operating in deep space. The plants in the moon soil, however, did start to show stress after about a week and ended up stunted. Yet researchers insist the fact that they grew at all was remarkable and provides hope that it may be possible to one day grow plants directly on Earth's orbiting celestial body.
Stories will follow in the coming week. Will Elon Musk go ahead with his bid to buy Twitter? It seems to be hanging in the balance. Joe Biden will travel to Japan and South Korea, and the US Senate might vote on more aid for Ukraine. And that is the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
We have a breaking news blast on the tragic situation happening across the country in which more than 40,000 Americans have been trapped in a Confessions animal hoarding marathon on Animal Planet for the last 13 hours. The Animal Hoarders Marathon began at 9 this morning as victims were preparing for a full day before hearing the fateful sound of the show's opening credits. Almost instantly, thousands were pinned to their couches by a story of a heavyset homosexual living with his partner, his toothless sister, and 31 chihuahuas. Rescue workers rushed to free as many victims as they could.
The rope secure? Rope secure. We're gonna get you out of here. Just hold on a second, ma'am.
Wait, I think the next one is about monkeys.
Ready? Ready! Pull!
No, wait. Can I just see what happens with the feral cat?
In other parts of the country, rescue workers enlisted volunteers who had already seen the episodes to spoil them for the victims.
Oh, yeah, this one. This is about the lady living with the dogs in the trailer. She doesn't even get evicted in the end.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. And we're back.
Yes, we are. Aren't we? I'm back. Are you back?
I'm back. I'm back.
Indeed. It has been verified. We are back.
Free Talk Live.
The telephone number 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. The topic is cops. Police, specifically. I would like to see the abolishment, the go bye-bye of police as it is known today, and instead I would like to subscribe to a security service that provides services that I want and need for a fair price in which I have choice when subscribing. That is to say that I believe many people have different needs when it comes to security, when it comes to any type of policing, when it comes to investigation of crimes, when it comes to, all of these things can be provided by the market. There are a whole bunch of people that have very entrepreneurial spirits who would do very well in a marketplace that did not have a monopoly. One of the reasons why you don't see a whole bunch of security companies offering these services for a very palatable price with different choices and different packages to suit individual needs is because the government doesn't allow that to happen.
It's a monopoly.
You'll die if you try to compete with them, or at least be put out of business very quickly.
Right.
So we started with a story about some cops who beat an innocent teen. One cop in particular, the cops that were with him were found, yes, indeed, they are at fault for not stopping him from beating this innocent teen. But, of course, those cops aren't going to get punished in any way, shape, or form. The teen was awarded $500,000, which, of course, the taxpayers are going to foot the bill for that.
Not the city.
Not the city, not the cops.
The taxpayers.
The taxpayers, so.
City.
And then we started talking about this other story where a 10-year-old girl called 911 to tell dispatchers that her father, who's a veteran Chicago cop, had sexually abused her. And instead of them doing the right thing, they let this guy out after arresting him. Instead of charging him with a felony, a very serious felony, they let him out, no bail, on his own recognizance, and lowered the charges to domestic battery, a mere misdemeanor. And we'll get more into that. But first, let's go to your calls and thoughts. We were talking to Bad Slave in New Hampshire, and Bad Slave, you barely got a chance to speak, so what's on your mind?
Yeah, well, what I wanted to say is that in a healthy society, which I think we all wish for, that every member of that society has some bit of a responsibility to take care of business, to be, cognizant of security, your own security. Yeah, I mean, if you don't honor your own personal security, you're nowhere. You know what I mean? And so I'm just saying that, like Kyle Rittenhouse, he stepped up and he actually did something.
You bring up a very, very interesting point, Bed Slave, and that is when governments claim a monopoly over a service, in this case, the police, what it does is it allows people to take no responsibility of their own for these things, right? Because it's literally been outsourced. You are forced to pay for it via taxation. And so most people never think about it. They don't consider, oh, well, I might have to think about security myself. I might, outside of maybe subscribing to a home security system, an ADT or something like that. Most folks don't think about what sorts of security and investigation needs and services they might need. They get to be lazy about it because it's outsourced to the state.
Right. Who will stop the speeders?
They also assume that the government agency is going to act in their best interest and do the best job possible for their needs.
And that is not the case.
That is far from the truth.
I was, I'm online. There's a gentleman that you may know. His name is Barry Cooper. He's been fighting the law for a long time. He's a former narcotics officer who was then persecuted because he helps folks sort of get out of their troubles with the law. And his point was exactly this, that when the law claims the monopoly, people assume that the law is doing a good job, the best that they can. When in his experience in working with people, like anybody who gets a public defender, they just basically breeze through it. They don't really know what's going on. They don't know how to fight. They don't know how to stand up for their clients. They don't really even know the law a lot of the times. And he spends most of his time teaching them how to do their jobs for his client.
So I just want to add to what I started here is that monopoly you're talking about, Captain, is in fact all of us that are able, and I think that number one, your idea of a paid security force is fine. I think that, but I think that that actually comes from the idea that that we're all going to be crowded into cities. I think that people that live in smaller towns, like they have a voluntary
fire department.
You can have a volunteer. You could have committees of safety, which was what existed in colonial America. Back in the day, and they were responsible not only for the defense, as a militia of the people, but of enforcing the law, of being an emergency measure, which it would be extended by a fire department. We can do this stuff, and we can volunteer, and we can be that bulwark, and we can therefore continue to look to where we can improve society, rather than being extorted and have all this cost ladled into our resources. I just it's like, come on, folks, if we're already on a start with this, we're already looking to do constitutional carry, although there's a Chicago.
Yeah, good luck in Chicago with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's this guy, a black guy in Chicago is a rep, and then there's a senator too. They've been trying to pass this, god-awful bill to basically, eliminate the possibility of individual self-defense.
Yeah. Hey, Bad Slave, thanks for the call. The only way that the police services can be provided in the market is the government gets out of the way. Right now, they're not going to do that. Right? It's in my opinion. Like I can't see a way that they're going to do that. I wish it could happen. I wish there was a way. Now, people are going to say, well, you got to call and write your congressperson or your senator or your mayor or whatever. And like that, I mean, come on.
They're not going to relinquish perhaps the most power that they have at their disposal.
Right. Now, he did make some good points about voluntarism in action. Like, have you guys ever gone like wilderness camping?
Yes.
Right. You go with a group of people, and generally speaking, like one guy or a couple, you take shifts or something like that to sort of patrol your own camp, right? To provide your own security for your micro community, right? Well, and this is how it gets done in a free market, right? You find some people who are capable or some volunteers that want to help.
Neighborhood block watch.
Yeah. And if they do a good enough job, it becomes a business, and then people subscribe to this, et cetera, and so on. All of these things are possible. How do we get the government out of the way? 603-283-6160. If you know how to get the government out of the way, let us know.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring Simon to their rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait a minute.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me? Because you scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Big kahuna. I am Groot.
What were we talking about at the break? We should be talking about
603-283-6160. We've got a whole bunch of folks calling, and we'll get to those calls momentarily. This is Free Talk Live. Again, 603-283-6160. If you're having a hard time getting through, just please be patient as we work through the calls. Keep trying, and we'll try to get you on the air tonight. In the studio, it's myself, the Lord Reverend Captain Kickass, joining me.
Big Kahuna.
And Steve Classic.
It is Big Kahuna's debut, so if you want to call and
debut,
Das Boot. Yeah. Das Boot.
He's filling in for Steve Classic. Steve Classic's filling in for Richie Rich.
Right, and I'm just me.
You're just filling in.
I'm just me. I'm just here. I'm filling in for myself because I was absent last week. So
how does that feel?
It feels
good to be back.
It's good to be back. Good to be back. We've been talking about potentially abolishing the police. My thoughts on the subject are the government needs to get out of the way, first and foremost, because you cannot, let's say you're some brilliant security-minded guy, and you have the greatest idea for how to provide cost-effective security, police types of services, investigative services, that type of thing, protection services, and you want to bring that to market. You can't, because the government won't allow you to do it. They hate competition, so they won't allow you to do it. So how do we get the government out of the way?
It's a good question. I
think if you have 3 different private police forces, and then just, hey, which one do you want to subscribe to?
Yeah.
It's like 3 different restaurants in town. Which one you want to go to?
We'll talk more about this, I'm sure. But first, let's go to Peakless Mountaineer.
Oh!
Calling from New Hampshire. Peakless, here on Free Talk Live.
Hey, how's it going?
You have been summoned, apparently. Somebody spoke your name, and you doth appear. Doth? Half?
Yeah.
Doth?
Wait, is it doth or half? I'm not sure.
Didst and half.
Didst thou doth appear? What's on your mind, Peakless?
Real quick, I just wanted to clear up one thing that another caller had talked about with the police don't have the monopoly on the use of force, but they do have the monopoly on the initiation of force.
Very well, yes. Yes.
And that's an important distinction, because like the use of force, like another caller was saying, that should be everyone's responsibility, which was the original meaning of the term militia, was that every able-bodied man was capable of wielding force, but that's gone by the wayside these days. But the initiation of force is something that no one should have.
Yeah, I agree. And through the magic of I'm getting some weird
It sounds like
weird feedback going on there.
Charlie Brown. Wah, wah, wah,
yeah. It's weird. Anyway, through the magic of legislation, of course, they made this possible. So you said you had something else to talk about, though, Peakless?
Yeah. The reason I called was I wanted to clarify what my argument was. So it was like, well, I mean, if you're only a person when you have breath, well, what about the person who's drowning? Don't they? And it's like, no, that's not it at all. So what I was saying was that once you have taken that first breath, then you have property. Like, because that's the thing. Like, sure, there's spirituality and there's values, and like, you know, when he's talking about like, well, shouldn't you help rescue a drowning person? It's like, well, I'm not obligated to do that. It's nice, it's good, it's better. It's what in philosophy you call aesthetic. And that's why I pushed back on preferences yesterday, because like that's talking about aesthetics. That's what's good, but it's not what's morally required.
Yeah, and I'm muting you while I'm talking because we're getting weird feedback here, Peakless, so bear with me for just a moment. One of the things I think it came across as, you know, the first breath out of the womb, that's when life begins. That's what I think people are thinking, or what they heard. That's what I had in my mind, you know, from the show yesterday. And I think that is not true. Again, I did some more thinking about the subject overnight. And in fact, you know, egg cells are life. Sperm is life, right? Life exists before those two things combine to create an embryo even. So I think that's where yeah.
So we're not talking about life, because I mean, if it was life, then you know, you can't murder that mold over there. Like, no, we're talking about a human life. We're talking about, and especially we're talking about protecting a human life, and when we are required to do that. And we're required to protect when you have mixed your labor with nature. Once that's done, then I can't just like stand idly by and watch someone, you know, light your house on fire. Like, I have an obligation to protect property.
Yeah, I get your point about property. That makes a lot more sense when putting the word property to it, because libertarians, anarchists, subscribers to the non-aggression principle, generally speaking, believe that you own yourself. You are your own property, and that's kind of where the whole philosophy of freedom stems from, is that, you know, you are your own boss. You own yourself first and foremost.
Right. You own your body, and whatever your body does, you have to be held accountable for. So if your body does something awesome, great, right on, wonderful, and you get to profit from that. And the profit that comes from that is yours. At the same time, if your body does something terrible, if you break something that belonged to someone else, well, now we have to hold you liable for that.
Yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to just mention while we're talking about the subject of abortion from last night is that my position on it is that it's a personal choice in an individual situation, that it should not be legislated. And if you are in a position where you're considering making the choice, you must first come to terms with what the consequences of your choice will be. And that's something that we didn't get to talk about last night, were the consequences of your choice.
Well, that's a tough one, because, like, if that is a human being, then you don't have the option. Like, if they own their body before they mix it with labor somehow, then you don't actually have the option there. In the same way, on the other hand, like, you don't necessarily consider all of the possible outcomes. Like, look, if you have a drink, there's more outcomes than you can consider at that point. But that doesn't mean you can't do that. So, I mean, it's a tricky situation with that, because, like, if that is a human being, then we are obligated to protect it if they own that body. If and only if they have property, then we have to protect it, and you aren't allowed to infringe on it.
Agreed. Hey, Peakless, thank you for chiming in and for your call tonight. We appreciate it. Peakless Mountaineer, everybody, give him a round of applause.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah, he's one of the smarties.
Very smart, very smart.
One of the smarties. 603-283-6160. That's the phone number if you want to weigh in on any subjects. We'll get to more of your calls coming up. This is Free Talk Live. It's the live Sunday night edition.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the week ended with President Biden pledging to deepen American engagement in Southeast Asia in a bid to counter China's rise. He welcomed the leaders of ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, to Washington, the first time the city has hosted an ASEAN summit in its 45-year history.
We're committed to a future where the rules and norms that have made possible so much growth and prosperity and stability in the Indo-Pacific are upheld and strengthened. And as we look around the world, all the challenges we're facing, the ASEAN-U.S. partnership is critical, I think, to meeting the moment we find ourselves in history right now.
President Biden on Friday also met Jordan's King Abdullah, and he spoke on the phone to the leaders of Finland and Sweden. Both countries are applying for NATO membership in light of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Russians aren't pleased. FSN's Stuart Smith covered that story from our Moscow bureau, where he works within the Kremlin's reporting restrictions.
It was clear that Russia wouldn't be happy, and indeed the Kremlin has come out and said that Finland's accession to NATO will be a threat to Russia. Consider that Russia considers NATO a military alliance that is not just defensive and doesn't just defend itself, but also is aggressive.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson in Helsinki hailed the concept of NATO expansion.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine has changed the equation of European security, and it has rewritten our reality and reshaped our future.
But on Friday, NATO member Turkey indicated it was not happy about the alliance promising a swift and smooth entry process for Finland and Sweden. The US passed a tragic milestone this week.
The loss of 1 million American lives due to COVID-19. 1 million lives.
Vice President Kamala Harris making that announcement at a global COVID summit.
Today and every day, we remember them, of course, and we honor them.
The White House also had to deal with a nationwide shortage of baby formula that further threatened to depress President Biden's approval ratings. New White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
So ensuring that infant formula is safe and available for families across the country is a top priority to the White House. This is an urgent issue that the FDA, as you all know, and the White House is working 24/7 to address.
But it could be weeks before supplies return to normal. Al Jazeera reporter Shireen Abu Akleh, a fixture on the network's Middle East coverage for years, was killed in the West Bank town of Jenin on Wednesday. Al Jazeera called it an act of blatant murder by Israeli troops. The US called for a full investigation of a killing it said was an affront to media freedom everywhere. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
Yes, we are back.
I love saying that. It's going to be my thing now. I'm going to steal it from you.
Yeah?
No, I don't know. I can't steal it.
Can we get you and Richie Rich to, do harmonies?
1, 2, 3, and we're back.
No, you got to do... Okay, you go high, I'll go low. 1, 2, 3, and we're back. That's not quite a harmony.
We got to work on it. Not on air.
All right. 603-283-6160. It is Free Talk Live, in case you're wondering what this ridiculousness is that you're listening to. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Big Kahuna.
And Steve Classic.
And before we continue with the program, Free Talk Live's video archives have been over on Library for years. Library is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of stuff like that here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, Library launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could literally be taken down completely at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, you can download the desktop app over at library.com, LBRY.com. And then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed to keep it online forever. Again, visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. Video.freetalklive.com. We've been talking about potentially abolishing the police. We've been talking about police atrocities that are committed. We've been talking about how they have a monopoly on the initiation of force and that the existence of police is a monopoly on police services because they do provide services, albeit they don't do it very well. They are providing services, but they also don't allow competition. And so, we've had a bunch of calls about it, and we're about to get back to those right now. In fact, let's go to, I believe this is Dave in Washington. Dave, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, well, I apologize for sort of switching the topic.
No, don't ever apologize for that because it's called Free Talk Live for a reason. If you don't want to talk about what we're talking about, call in, change the subject. So that's what you're doing.
All right, guys. Hey, on the pro-life type issue, pro-life abortion issue, I just find it, I always find it interesting when I hear people at these rallies chanting various sayings, and some of the sayings they're chanting, they don't understand the sort of hypocrisy in many ways of what they're saying.
Like, let's go, Brandon?
Yeah, well, yes. No, I'm talking like, in this case, no uterus, no opinion, like men can't have an opinion.
Oh, right.
And the interesting part about that is that the Roe Wade opinion originally was, done by 7 male judges. So if they don't like male opinion, I guess they want Roe Wade overturned on that aspect.
Interesting,
then,
yeah.
The My Body, My Choice chant, that's another one. Whenever I hear that, I want to put a sign up that has a picture of a pregnant woman, and from the belly, I want to see one of those little mental bubbles of what you're thinking, and it's my life, my choice from the baby's perspective. And because it seems like they never want to attribute the My Body, My Choice to the unborn baby. And the other issue and the whole idea of this life thing, it all really comes down to, I think you guys all understand this too, that it's just when does life begin? That's the big, linchpin in this whole thing. Because as soon as life begins, then it's not choice. There's no pro-choice argument anymore. You can't choose to kill somebody, whether it's in the privacy of your home, because they're making this all about privacy and trying to suggest that, this basis of privacy means they're going to abolish LGBTQ rights and interracial rights. And I'm like, okay, that's all covered under the Equal Protection Clause. That doesn't have anything to do with privacy. But when I hear people make these arguments, I have a more, I feel like, logical argument for pro-life if you want to hear it.
You called, so, if you want to tell national radio about it, go for it.
All right, so here it is. It's legal and philosophical in an argument. Philosophically, most people have the agreement that you protect the most vulnerable lives among us. That's why when a ship is sinking, the kids go to the lifeboats first.
Yep.
It doesn't get too much more vulnerable than depending on another life for your preservation when you're in the belly of the mother. So you would think that we're going to preserve that life. There's also a notion of not prosecuting or holding you accountable for someone else's deeds. So no fault of your own by something happens. And that comes into the idea of rape and incest in the case of, are we going to let abortions occur? And while I sympathize with the idea of if a rape or, something from incest occurs, the problem is that is not the responsibility of the baby. And so once we determine that that's a life, then you would have to say if by no fault of the child something happened. You obviously prosecute the perpetrator of crime, but the baby doesn't hold any responsibility to that. And then as far as when do we decide when life is, because that's the crux of it, The way I've come about it is that because no one can prove it, like no scientist can say it's here, it's a heartbeat, it's mental activity or whatever. You have to err on the side of caution. Much in the way that we do in the legal system, if somebody's accused of murder, we don't say, well, we think you probably did, so you're guilty. The system is supposed to be set up so that a guilty person might go free if you can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So
right. The guilty person is supposed to go free before you potentially end somebody's life who's innocent.
Yeah, or take their liberty and freedom away, because we value that in this country. We're supposed to.
Well,
so,
that can be argued. All of that, yeah, of course, yeah.
I know you've had a lot of issues with the government. I get it, and I agree with you on most of all of that. My whole point on that, though, is that if we are going to go by that reasoning, and you kind of think of the baby as the defendant, it should be up to whether it's the mother, the state, whoever you want to say. They should have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that is not a life. It should not be the requirement to prove that it is life. It should be the requirement to prove that it is not life. And one of the ways I go about thinking of how could I conceivably argue that it is life is I look to something that we've had for, 50 years or so now called DNA. And since there's actual legal precedent where a rapist, because there's a statute of limitations on rape versus murder, they have actually tried DNA for rape and got a conviction. And then later on, when they found the rapist who, was accountable to that DNA, that person went to prison. They were already found guilty based on it being their DNA. So once you can identify a uniquely identifiable DNA, at that point, I believe it's extremely rational and reasonable to say that is a human life now because it's a uniquely identifiable person and DNA. What do you think?
You have some very good points and some very interesting arguments, you guys.
Well, I was going to say, would you have to test the DNA of the fetus or the baby to see if it's actually different? And well, I was just going to say that's when it comes down to at some point you'd have to have some scientific, obviously, experiments to determine when that is, and that would involve, sampling pregnant women and going in and seeing at what point can you identify that it's a unique identifiable DNA. Like you'd have to go into a woman and be able to find that. So there'd be some testing involved. I don't know the exact answer because I'm not a DNA, expert.
You're not a rocket surgeon?
No, sorry. But I kind of believe that it's within a few hours. I think once the sperm and the eggs combine, I don't think it's that long before it's a uniquely identifiable DNA that is created. And, you hit the go button. And from then on, that is proceeding to a living, breathing person that's going to pop out of the womb as long as we don't do something to stop the process. And so I just think that saying it's a choice to be able to kill something that very well could be a life, until you can prove it's not a life, I don't think that's a choice.
Yeah, on this topic, I mean, the views tend to be on the extremes, in my opinion. Yeah. It's either yes or no. And I hear what you're saying on the DNA thing. Sort of related to that, not exactly the same. I've heard arguments, when the baby can feel pain, things like that, which happens after X number of weeks, I forget. But I think those are viable arguments that maybe aren't at either extreme. And then
I try not to be in the extreme. I understand both points.
Right.
But the whole when movement occurs, I mean, I actually raise chickens, and sometimes you have to terminate a chicken's life, if you were going to eat that chicken. And when you cut the head off, it still moves around. It's hard to say that that's life.
Do not ever kick a chicken. Do not ever kick. You can take the head off. Don't ever kick a chicken.
Hey, Dave, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. 603-283-6160. I think Big Kahuna had something more to say on this topic. If so,
after this break.
No, when we come back. Coming up on Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. No chicken kicking going on.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
And we're back.
And the phones are still packed. It's been an action-packed evening. If you're trying to get through to 603-283-6160, just keep on trying. Hopefully we can get through and get to everybody. I think it's doable at this point. This is Free Talk Live. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain,
Big Kahuna, and Steve Classic.
We've been talking about, well, all sorts of fun things, from abolishing the police to police committing sexual assault to how do we get the government out of the way to, do something about the police and their monopoly, to opinions on abortion and when does life begin and end.
I did want to follow up on that last caller.
Okay, go ahead.
In terms of hypocrisy.
Yeah, oh, right, you had something to say.
Yeah, so I've observed this. I mean, so the same crowd right now that's, chanting "My Body, My Choice," which should say Elizabeth Warren, and that crowd, not too long ago, they weren't exactly saying that when it came to jabbing something into your arm.
Oh, a little bit of hypocrisy?
Just a bit.
Just a little bit.
Just an observation.
Yeah, unless it's... so I guess it's their body, Fauci's choice in that
yeah,
case.
I think so.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Interesting.
Government people. Government people. Whatever the government says, do it. That's
the science is settled.
As it keeps changing daily, because that's what science is. It's the investigation. It's a method. That's what science is. A method.
It's a method
of investigation and uncovering. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Science is a method. In fact, by nature, the science can actually never be settled.
It'll never be settled.
You don't want it to be settled.
No. Always new information coming out.
All right, let's go to the phones and the fun. We've got Steve calling from Georgia. Steve, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, so I have the answer for how we get government out of the way.
Oh, okay.
I'm
But
all ears.
my
Let's
ears
hear
are
it.
perked. I
Yes.
feel like a German Shepherd over here going, yeah. All right, go ahead,
Did
Steve.
somebody in the background just call me a liar?
No, we said let's hear it.
No.
Oh, okay.
You haven't said anything.
Yeah.
How could you be a liar?
I mean, are you lying about having the answer?
No, I'm not. So
All right.
there's this idea. It's called mass resistant infiltration.
MRI?
Yeah. And now they're changing it to ROC, Resistance Operating Concept.
Okay.
And this is it's kind of weird that they keep changing the name, but it's the same basic principle that we've been using since, I don't know, getting the Roman Empire shut down. And what it is you take all of these people that don't like each other, or let's say they don't like each other, but they just don't share a whole lot in common, and you get them to do the same thing, and that is tell the oppressor no really loudly over and over, and not only tell the oppressor no, but not really, like, just resist, right? And it doesn't have to be violent. Like, I'm not saying we have to, attack the National Guard or anything.
Right.
But what I am saying is, if all of us libertarians got together and just had a conversation with all the different gangs and all the different political groups, and we're just like, hey, we really don't like each other a whole lot, but these guys, they're really bad people. How about we all just stop paying taxes? And then what you do is all these people, all these different groups, they're going to have people that own businesses, and you convince the business owners, don't pay taxes, go on this different market, and we all buy, sell, and trade with people that like us. And then all of a sudden, they don't have the money to continue the operation. There's too much resistance. It doesn't make sense. And then what you do is you say, hey, over here in Northwest Georgia, it's Steventopia. And
well, Steve, I have to ask then, if that, and I agree, that seems like a sound strategy. Wouldn't that strategy be most effective if people who share the ideas of freedom were to all gather in, say, one small state in the U.S. and attempt to do exactly what you're saying? Wouldn't that have a greater impact than everybody doing it disparately?
Historically, no. And the reason is, think about this. The United States is, let's just use close numbers. The United States is about 2,000 miles wide, about 19 miles in latitude and longitude, about, I guess you could say, high on a map.
Mm-hmm.
If all of the resistors went to New Hampshire, it would be pretty easy just to stomp us out. Geographically, it's easy to isolate and just handle. But if you're doing it in New Hampshire with, you and a couple thousand people, and then I'm over here in Northwest Georgia doing it with a couple hundred people, and there's a couple thousand people over here and a couple thousand people over here, and we're just scattered, how are they going to deal with us? Not only that, but...
no, I see your point. I never said all of the people, but I think a large enough number of people gathering in a state like New Hampshire, for example, and sort of, showing the way, right? We've got a whole bunch of activists here. There's one in the studio.
Right, it's like a proof of concept.
Tonight.
We're doing the proof of concept here.
Right, do the proof of concept and kind of show other people how to say no. How do you say no at, a traffic stop, for example? How do you say no when you're in a public place? There's all sorts of activism that happens in the little town the show's based out of, in the town square, for example, which is actually
Red
a
Square.
circle. Yeah, it's actually a circle.
Not a square.
It's not a square.
Nor is it red.
But what do you think about that? Like showing people how it's done.
So once again, if let's use random numbers. Let's say 5% of all the knowers all move to Keene. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now Keene becomes a no hot spot.
Mm-hmm.
They go in, and like this is, if you read Rock, right? I think the new one just came out. If it's by Otto Fila or something, Fiala.
Yeah.
If you read that book, you understand something, and that is, okay, we all go to Keene, we all get together and smoke weed and blow weed in their face, and they go to pull me over, and I go, nope, and I just drive to the Freedom Church, and I walk in, and there's a bunch of people, and they're like, hey, there's no way we can get this guy into cuffs, and we just make it really hard for them. All of a sudden, someone signs a piece of paper, and the 82nd Airborne and the 3rd Marine Battalion or whoever is walking around forcing us to say yes.
Yeah, but doesn't that just further illustrate the tyrants that they are? Again, we're attempting to show.
But, okay, so the Marines come in, the 101st come in, whoever comes in, and a bunch of us get slaughtered, right? And now all of a sudden...
I think that's an unrealistic outcome. I do not believe the United States government would send troops to murder, quote, citizens, unquote, of its own country.
Well, it's happened before.
It has.
Yeah.
The move bombing
Yeah.
recently occurred. It's true, but that is also something that they like to sweep under the rug and not be highly publicized. Something like that happening now with the age of the internet and people with cell phones and everybody and their dog taking pictures and video and posting it, streaming it live. I mean, no, it's just, I think it's an unrealistic expectation to think that there's going to be military action taken against peaceful activists.
Okay. Now, there's one thing that, when you study these concepts, there's one thing I find really interesting. How many resistors do you think you need?
3%.
3%.
Yeah, I think the statistics historically say 3%.
Yep, you actually need 2.71.
Oh, I was wrong.
Yeah, but I mean,
rounds to 3.
Yeah, libertarians, we're not good at math.
Well, some of us
only
are.
1% need to be the doers. Only 1% need to be the doers. So
yes,
if you have 273 people running around together saying, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this, only 100% have to be the ones carrying things out. Only 1% have to be marching down the street. Only 1% have to look at the cop and go, the ticket you're giving me, and just throw it out the window and drive off.
Hey, Steve, thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it. And it gives new meaning to 1%. That's a 1% I can get behind. 1% of the necessary total of activists to make change. If you are a doer and you are of the mind of freedom, if you have philosophized, you believe in the ownership of self, in the non-aggression principle, and you want to see freedom achieved in your lifetime, look into moving to New Hampshire for the greater freedom movement. There are all sorts of things here, like the Free State Project, for example. There are other people who, don't participate in those, who would love to have you as their neighbors.
New Hampshire.
603-283-6160 is the number. More of your calls and more Free Talk Live is coming up. Hour number 3 is next.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. FreePrivateCities.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to MyMagicMud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. MyMagicMud.com, FTL20.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. US President Joe Biden and the First Lady are due to travel to Buffalo in New York on Tuesday, following this weekend's mass shooting there. The White House says the president is visiting Buffalo to grieve with the community that lost 10 lives in an attack on a supermarket in a predominantly black neighborhood. On Sunday, he spoke about the attack at a service at the US Capitol, honoring law enforcement who've lost their lives in the line of duty.
The Justice Department has stated publicly that it is investigating the matter as a hate crime, racially motivated act of white supremacy and violent extremism.
The alleged 18-year-old white gunman has been charged with first-degree murder and is being held without bail. He has pleaded not guilty and is on suicide watch. Buffalo's police chief said the suspect was detained for a mental health evaluation last year. US media reports citing law enforcement officials said police were called after he allegedly made a threatening statement at his high school. The attack in Buffalo is the deadliest mass shooting in the United States in 2022. It was followed by another shooting on Sunday at a church in Southern California, which has killed at least one person. All this has once again reignited the debate around gun control and put the spotlight back on the rise in hate crimes across the country. Sweden's ruling party has announced it will support the country's application for NATO membership in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. At a press conference, Sweden's Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson said the Social Democrats believe the move is what's best for the Swedish people's security. This follows confirmation by Finland's president that the Nordic nation intends to join NATO. This is expected to further anger Russia, which has opposed NATO expansion. Trent Murray has more from Berlin.
If Finland and Sweden do indeed join, they're doing away with decades worth of neutrality and non-alignment. And so what we are going to see now over the coming days and weeks, I think, is a lot of negotiation across those NATO capitals. 30 NATO parliaments from all of the allies need to vote on whether they will allow these two countries in. Already some of the big hitters like the UK, Germany, France, Belgium, just to name a few, have said that they will indeed be voting to let them in. So it really is just up to the political timings and the legislative agenda in each of those parliaments.
And finally, former Somalian President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud is once again leader of the country, following his victory in the last stage of a voting process that only involved the country's lawmakers. Mr. Mohamud defeated a number of candidates, including the incumbent president, who's been in office for the last 5 years. The vote itself was delayed for more than a year because of fighting amongst the politicians and some concerns about security. Explosions were heard even as ballots were being cast, but police said there were no casualties. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking in more detail at the weekend announcement by Finland and Sweden that they are going to apply for membership of NATO. The move was, a few short weeks ago, unthinkable, but that was before Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, after decades spent avoiding any moves to antagonise Russia, the governments in Stockholm and Helsinki have concluded the Kremlin's aggression leaves them with no alternative. As NATO members, they would benefit from its mutual defence covenants that see an attack on one member as an attack on all. Bob McMahon of the US-based Council on Foreign Relations says a meeting this Tuesday between the Finnish president and the Swedish king will be dominated by the two nations' decision.
The idea is to have a process in place ahead of the NATO summit at the end of June. You're seeing with the announcement in which the Finnish leaders use the words, "we must apply to NATO," and this visit that's going to take place of the president of Finland to the king of Sweden is going to be redolent of this entire security issue. There's going to be probably a great deal of professing of ties and long-lasting ties between the two countries, and then talk about their shared sort of need for pulling together and standing up for values and against the aggressiveness that we've seen in Ukraine by Russia.
There is one potential problem. Turkey says it does not yet support the decision to expand NATO, and any country can only join with the unanimous support of all other members. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main headlines again. US President Joe Biden and the First Lady are due to travel to Buffalo in New York on Tuesday, following the mass shooting there which has left 10 people dead. Sweden's ruling party has announced it will support the country's application for NATO membership in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And former Somalian President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud is once again leader of the country following his victory in the last stage of a voting process that only involved the country's lawmakers. That is the latest from Feature Story News. I'm Jagruti Dave in Washington.
It's The Onion Radio News. General Motors reports record sales of its new disposable car. This is Doyle Redland reporting. General Motors has announced a 56% increase in earnings this year, attributing much of it to February's wildly successful launch of the GMC Whim, the first ever non-refillable disposable automobile. Debuting at a cost of $1,100 each, the vehicles are flying out of showrooms as quickly as dealers can stock them. Whim enthusiast Glenn Shriver.
I recently consumed 4 vehicles driving from my home to Daytona Beach for the first annual Whim Owners Convention. I've already collected all 8 colors.
Rival automakers are preparing to counter with their own lines of disposable cars, including the Ford Temporare and the Chrysler Dumper. The 2002 Mitsubishi Ditch will be unveiled later this year with a projected sticker price of $799. Doyle Redland for The Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
Free Talk Live.
And we're back. We are, and it is hour number 3 of this live Sunday night edition of Free Talk Live. The telephone number 603-283-6160. We've still got a grip of callers on hold. If you're having trouble getting through, just keep trying. 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Big Kahuna.
Steve Classic.
And it's getting real close. Forkfest 2022 is nearly upon us. You can join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Forkfest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Forkfest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Forkfest takes place the week after Porkfest, but Forkfest is decentralized, and that means there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. I can't think of a better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving people here in New Hampshire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party, where you can connect with other attendees. You can find the Forkfest Telegram and the Matrix chat rooms as well. Again, forkfest.party. We hope to see you there, forkfest.party. All right. We were talking about all sorts of fun stuff. The last caller we had, I thought was pretty good. He had some pretty valid points. Yeah. Did you guys have anything more before we go back to the phones?
Nothing from me.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then let's
continue. The captain
on.
continues.
Let's continue on. Let's go to David in New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, you come to judge. You come to judge.
Where's the judge that he's, where's he coming from?
Oh, he's in Albuquerque, man. That Tommy Jewell, man, the one that's married to Angela Jewell, the one that trafficked my children.
Does this have something to do with M.
Monica Zamora.
Yeah, M. Monica Zamora and our
John J. Romero Jr.
John J.
Romero Jr. Judge. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
That'll one. Yeah. So anyway, before the brown judges traffic my children, the black judges traffic my children way before the brown judges traffic my children. But y'all don't know nothing about that yet because I've been all busy talking about the brown judges. So now we're gonna talk about the black judges. Tommy Jewell and Angela Jewell. Because they both judges, they married each other. They both went to UNM Law School. There's a pattern there too, man.
Hey, David, can I just ask you to? I don't know if you're yelling into the phone. There's some crackling going on at the top of You could just. Man,
we all yelling in this hood all the time, man. We just can't help it, man.
Maybe hold the phone a little further away from your face then while you're yelling.
It's all the way at the end. It's all the way at the end of my arm now. I'll try growing some longer arms before my next call.
All right, that sounds good.
At the end of Yeah, okay, man. All right. So 3 feet, got a 3 foot rule going on here.
Oh, it's like COVID.
Social distancing.
Yeah, man. I do 6 feet for you, but I don't. But I'm just a white boy. I ain't good at basketball. I ain't got them long old arms, so I can't do it. Yeah.
All right.
So,
Did you have a topic? What were you calling about?
Yeah, well, that is the topic. The brown judges trafficked my children, the M. Monica Zamora and the John J. Romero Jr. But before the brown judges trafficked my children, the black judges trafficked my children. The Tommy and Angela Jewell. So that's what I was telling you. The one that got all up in my grill at the black barber shop when I went there to get my white hair cut?
No.
Remember that, right?
No.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, anyway, Tommy Jewell, he got up in my face. He got up in my grill. He put his head about a foot from my face when I asked him about his wife trafficking my children when I ran into him at the black barber shop. So that's the one. The one that's the ninth degree or 33rd degree black belt.
Hey, David, but yeah. Poor job, very poor. Yes, poor impersonation. Thank you for the call. I don't know what he's getting at. He's been on sort of a racist tinge.
Boy,
recently.
if you ever want to throw the emergency brakes on a good time, just
just take a call from David in New Mexico.
Hostility.
Let's try and sort of like the government does, sweep that under the rug.
Let's restart the karma.
Let's go to Major Payne in Michigan. Major, you're on Free Talk Live.
Oh, that's a Major Payne.
Oh, nope, sorry, Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Oh yes, thanks for taking my call. I'm always happy to hear David. I mean, he's just really off the wall, and he lives in our state. But anyways, I just want to...
Do you know him?
Well, I've only heard him on the radio show. I've never met him. I know quite a bit of his life.
Okay.
From calling in all the time, and I know about his kids that he's missing. So, but anyways, I wanted to expose Albuquerque corruption of this company was supposed to remodel the airport, where the waiting areas or something. They got this contract, and they know that company's name, but they dragged it out longer than what it's supposed to, and they overcharged, and they're being audited. And all this happened with Mayor Berry's administration. Mayor Berry is the one that took out all of our red light cameras, by the way.
Okay.
That's how he got elected. So that, they'll do anything and say anything. And what's amazing is that Mayor Berry, he was a contractor before he ran for mayor. I mean, what is an odd, flip-flop over?
Well, usually if somebody was a contractor and then they get into politics and become a politician, they then use their position of power to curry favor and, give contracts to like their contractor friends and that type of a thing. That's generally how it goes.
Oh, yeah. I definitely knew that was coming up. So, I mean, he did everything 3 months before he got reelected and pulled out all the red light cameras. Didn't care how many people got killed. And everybody was thinking...
Wait.
You talk about red light cameras being removed like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, how do people die from red light cameras being removed?
Well, the thing is, the red light cameras was also another con job to get reelected. What he said was, I'll do a thorough study before he got reelected, and he dumped it onto the voters. And then once he found out there was 3,000 more people that voted against the red light cameras, the voters, He just did whatever which way the wind blew that was going to get the votes to get him reelected.
Oh, wow. I mean, like, we've never heard of this happening in politics.
Yeah, it's like in the state of Connecticut. They magically withheld the 25-cent state gas tax, and it's an election year, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Magic.
This happens all the time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then we were figuring out that all of his buddies were going to get all the contracts. And what I hear is that once they leave the offices, that's when they make the real money. Because those people that got hooked up, they'll turn around and give him jobs.
Yep. Hey, Sarah, thanks for the call. And keep looking into that stuff, because you're going to find that happens far more frequently, and you'll find that far more things happen than what you're describing. Keep on keeping on. We appreciate the call. Let's go right away to Major Payne. Major, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, Captain. I got a couple besides the old chicken kicking thing.
What's the chicken kicking thing?
Yeah, I got an update from the Brio Supreme Court, and I also wanted to touch on one of your earlier callers. You guys were bickering over 12 or 2.71% or 3% of the population it takes to overthrow the government.
No, for activism to be effective.
Well, it took 3% of the population to overthrow Britain in the Revolutionary War, I guess is my point.
Okay.
And
it wasn't 2.71?
Yeah, well, no, it was not 2.71.
All right, just checking.
Anyway, the first time that the military was sicked upon the populace on this continent was over marijuana.
No, marijuana? The devil's lettuce?
Yes, the devil's lettuce.
Chiba?
Of course, these were big, tall indica plants. They wanted long fibers for making ropes and sails and such.
Just one marijuana and your children will be addicted instantly.
Oh, I know. It's the weed with the devil's roots in hell. I remember the poster well. But,
hey, Major, can you hang on?
Sure.
All right, we'll bring you back. Stand by. 603-283-6160. Don't let your children do even one marijuana.
No.
They could overdose and potentially die. This is snarkasm, by the way. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
We are. It is Free Talk Live. The telephone number, if you would like to weigh in on anything we've been talking about tonight. We've talked about all sorts of fun stuff, including officers found at fault for failing to stop another cop from beating an innocent teen. We've talked about how the free market could replace police and do it better and for a more reasonable price with more choice. Whoa, what a concept.
Pro-choice police.
We've talked about what is life? When does life begin? There's a whole bunch of opinions on that. We've had more opinions on abortion. We've talked about showing resistance through activism. We've had David in New Mexico harsh our buzz a little bit. And so we're here. Let's go back to the phones because we were talking with Major Payne, who called about, well, something. I know you were going to talk about kicking chickens, but I'm not sure what you really called about.
Well, that was just a joke I was going to open with.
Okay, well, go ahead. You can open with it now.
All right. Well, you guys were talking about kicking chickens. Well, you never want to kick a chicken because chickens are considered foul, correct?
Foul. Oh, boy.
Every time you kick a chicken, he will fly foul.
That's it. I don't. Is
Neither
that
fair nor foul?
Okay, so there. Hang on. There's this thing in the world known as a dad joke, right? Now that's worse than a dad joke. So
I'm a grandpa.
Okay, so granddad jokes.
Granddad jokes. Yeah.
I'm fixing to be a great grandpa.
It's that's a fitting description. It's a great granddad joke.
Right.
I tell you what, Captain, you disclosed your age the other night on the radio. You guys ought to open up an office pool. How old is Major? I tell you, I'll give you the first clue.
Okay, wait, no, I want to guess. Each of us. Hang on. Before you give us any clues,
over under.
Let's just guess. I'm gonna say Major Payne is 67 years old. Kahuna?
I'm gonna say 81.
Oh, I was going to say 81. I'll take 82.
Oh, goodness gravy, where are my teeth? No, you're all way foul, like kicking.
All right, how old are you?
Oh, no, you guys need to open up an office pool. You can make money
okay.
on this.
Have to get squares, Just...
Well, we were thinking actually of opening a combination.
I'm gonna give you the first hint right now.
Right.
I was born 100 years after peace was made at the courthourhouse. Bang.
I don't know. I'm as old as the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's easy.
we was talking about the first time that the war was waged upon the citizenry, and that was over marijuana pot. King George wanted the farmers to grow hemp.
Yep.
And there was more profit in tobacco.
Right.
So, and then about, my mind's working right, about 75 years after that, there was the Whiskey Rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
After, the Highlanders had moved over to the Appalachians, and they discovered that they could put 7 bushels of corn into a whiskey jug and take it out over on the ass of a jack, or the jack of an ass, as it were.
Okay.
But anyway, as far as the Burrito Supreme Court, there was a decision, I don't know, last couple of days here, that there was some Catholic or Christian organization that wanted to fly a flag on a pole about the whole birthrights thing. Well, the Burrito Supreme Court said that, well, this is not a government-sanctioned pole, so they can fly whatever the frick they want. Well, now the Church of Satan or some such thing has filed for a suit where they want to be able to fly their flag, a couple of them, one of them picturing baby dismemberment.
I'll talk to Ari about that. Maybe she knows something.
That's just wrong, dude.
Yeah, are you familiar with a comedian named Doug Stanhope?
No, sir.
All right, so he he did this thing where there was a person leaving these flyers that were, against child porn and, abortion and, all these kinds of things on people's cars underneath their windshield wipers or whatever. And it happened when he was getting out of his gig or whatever. And on the back of it was the picture of, like, the scan of, like, a woman pregnant with the, the embryo inside of her or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so this guy apparently was just like a local guy who felt strongly about his position and made these flyers. But he put his actual phone number on these flyers of the guy. And so Doug Stanhope called him up, and he did this, like, sort of reverse psychology thing on him. He's like, how dare you put a naked fetus on your flyer? You have committed the most heinous child porn that anybody... Right, so he reversed the thing on the guy, and it was hilarious.
Oh.
Anything else, Major?
No.
All right.
I wouldn't want to wake up with that dude's phone number, I'll tell you that.
Thanks for the call, Major. We appreciate it. We've been having a lot of fun. However, the topic we left off on, not so fun, and that is this article from the Free Thought Project where a 10-year-old girl had called 911 to report to police that her dad was sexually assaulting her. Her dad happens to be a Chicago cop. He was arrested and initially charged with a heinous felony, but after spending several hours in jail, he would be released on zero bail with new charges of domestic battery, merely a misdemeanor.
Surprised he didn't just get a parking ticket.
Or
right?
No, it's fine. You're a police. It's fine.
Give you a warning.
It's cool. You're protecting and serving. You do whatever you want.
Qualified immunity.
Yeah. Though body-worn camera footage was mentioned in the original report, a month later, and officials began claiming that there is no body camera footage. Only after attempting to hide it the first time, the video would finally be turned over to the Assistant State Attorney's Office of Thomas Frank. Never trust a man with 2 first names.
Unless his name is Ron Paul. That's the only caveat I say.
You can listen to Ron Paul. Trusting him?
Trusting. All right. Okay.
So anyway, it took a second subpoena to get this camera footage, this body cam. The Times reports that after the girl called 911, she told investigators her father kissed her cheek and lips and told her, quote, he wanted more, while sucking her tongue, according to the arrest report and a charging document.
I mean, a father would actually do that to their kid. I mean, is it a stepchild maybe?
Yeah.
How old was the 10?
10.
Really?
The remaining details have been sealed because, quote, release of the victim's statements to the public could be disturbing for the victim and cause the victim to relive the traumatizing experience, unquote.
Probably bad for the police as well.
Well,
minor details.
That's how statists say bad
Yeah,
for the police. Yes. Yes. They say, oh, we're trying to protect the victim, and when they're really protecting themselves, their own cops.
Right.
Court records show the officer was initially ordered to surrender his firearm and stay away from his daughter, but less than a week later, the order was amended, allowing him to visit and potentially threaten or re-victimize his alleged victim. A hearing on the case's status has been set for June 1st. 603-283-6160 if you want to weigh in on this horrendous story. This is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. US President Joe Biden and the First Lady are due to travel to Buffalo in New York on Tuesday, following this weekend's mass shooting there. The White House says the president is visiting Buffalo to grieve with the community that lost 10 lives in an attack on a supermarket in a predominantly black neighborhood. On Sunday, he spoke about the attack at a service at the US Capitol, honoring law enforcement who've lost their lives in the line of duty.
The Justice Department has stated publicly that it is investigating the matter as a hate crime, racially motivated act of white supremacy and violent extremism.
The alleged 18-year-old white gunman has been charged with first-degree murder and is being held without bail. He has pleaded not guilty and is on suicide watch. Buffalo's police chief said the suspect was detained for a mental health evaluation last year. US media reports citing law enforcement officials said police were called after he allegedly made a threatening statement at his high school. The attack in Buffalo is the deadliest mass shooting in the United States in 2022. It was followed by another shooting on Sunday at a church in Southern California, which has killed at least one person. All this has once again reignited the debate around gun control and put the spotlight back on the rise in hate crimes across the country. Sweden's ruling party has announced it will support the country's application for NATO membership in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. At a press conference, Sweden's Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson said the Social Democrats believe the move is what's best for the Swedish people's security. This follows confirmation by Finland's president that the Nordic nation intends to join NATO. This is expected to further anger Russia, which has opposed NATO expansion. Trent Murray has more from Berlin.
If Finland and Sweden do indeed join, they're doing away with decades worth of neutrality and non-alignment. And so what we are going to see now over the coming days and weeks, I think, is a lot of negotiation across those NATO capitals. 30 NATO parliaments from all of the allies need to vote on whether they will allow these two countries in. Already some of the big hitters like the UK, Germany, France, Belgium, just to name a few, have said that they will indeed be voting to let them in. So it really is just up to the political timings and the legislative agenda in each of those parliaments.
And finally, former Somalian President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud is once again leader of the country following his victory in the last stage of a voting process that only involved the country's lawmakers. Mr. Mohamud defeated a number of candidates, including the incumbent president, who's been in office for the last 5 years. The vote itself was delayed for more than a year because of fighting amongst the politicians and some concerns about security. Explosions were heard even as ballots were being cast, but police said there were no casualties. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
And it is Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. If you have missed any part of tonight's shows thus far, or any of the other shows, we're here 7 nights a week, you can find all of them at freetalklive.com in the archive section. So, I know when I was living on the West Coast, I was working like a 8 to 5 type job, and I wouldn't get home until, the show was an hour or so into it, so I'd always miss the first hour. But I would use the archive to catch up and, what did I miss? And who's like, I came in halfway on this call or this topic, kind of a thing. So it works out. So freetalklive.com. Check out the archives there. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Big Kahuna.
And Steve Classic.
I think we're just going to, I don't want to call it the lightning round, but we'll call it the speed round. We're just going to mention some things because we have tons of topics to talk about. This is from Reason.com. The IRS stole money and hid the details for years. As law enforcement agencies patrol for profit, the secrecy surrounding cash seizures must stop. You guys are probably wondering, okay, well, what is this about? The Internal Revenue Service demands transparency for you and me, of course. They open ledgers, snoop through bank accounts, review receipts, but its appetite for disclosure disappears when the roles reverse. The IRS stonewalled for more than 6 years when our public interest law firm, the Institute for Justice, sought access to the agency's forfeiture database. Initially, the IRS wanted a $750,000 fee before it would accommodate the request, an unreasonable demand that would render the Freedom of Information Act useless for all but the wealthiest citizens.
Jeez. I'd pay the $750K because they probably got $200-300 million. More than that.
The point is that if it supposedly is a public agency.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't have to pay for it.
And anybody who's dealt with agencies, especially the IRS.
Theirs.
Right. Yeah.
We need a fee. We need a
fee. You didn't sign the right paperwork. It's sitting on somebody's desk.
Yeah.
I mean, the excuses and the red tape is just endless.
They'll keep you going in circles.
Yeah, until most people give up. I mean, that's the reality of it.
Once in court, the IRS attempted a bait and switch. Rather than provide the actual data, it released a summary of the report that was 99% redacted, which means crossed out with like black marker. It then declared that it had gone above and beyond the legal requirements. The ruse worked at the district court level, but the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit ruled against the agency in 2019. After a second trip to the district court, the IRS finally coughed up the full database in April of 2022.
So how long did that take?
6 years. Can you imagine? Now, how long do you think if the IRS was asking you for, all of your records and your bank and your tax filings and all that, how long do you think they'd wait 6 years?
You have until Friday.
They usually want it immediately,
if not sooner.
Yeah.
You got 1 week to get it to us.
Right.
For those of you not familiar, why I say theirs, the, T-H-E, and then IRS, if you put them together, spells theirs.
There's report.
Sounds about right.
Something I wanted to get to yesterday but wasn't able to. Germany has announced, they announced it, and then some people are like, well, wait, what does that really mean? And they asked Germany, this is the politicians now in Germany, so take it for what it's worth, but they asked them to clarify what it means, and they have done so. Germany says no taxes, capital gains specifically, no taxes for selling Bitcoin, BTC, and Ethereum, ETH, if you've held it for over a year.
And what about your Shiba Inu?
Yeah, they haven't.
Well, and your Shibu out of luck.
What about your Dogecoin?
Germany's finance ministry said private individuals won't have to pay taxes when selling BTC or ETH if they have held the assets for more than a year. Germany's Ministry of Finance published a letter focused on the income tax treatment of digital assets, such as Bitcoin and Ethereum. So maybe it covers all of the digital assets. I don't know. After collaborating with the highest tax authorities of the federal states, the lawmakers decided to make the sale of Bitcoin and Ethereum tax-free if those assets were held for over 12 months. The policy will apply even if the cryptocurrencies have been employed for staking or lending.
I'm very surprised by that.
Me too.
Yeah, and I thought Shanghai just said that Bitcoin is digital property. It's not a currency. I don't know. Everyone's all up in arms. Like, what is it? I don't know.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, the Crypto 6 case, which if you're unfamiliar with, you can find out more at thecrypto6.com. That's thecrypto6.com. Interestingly, in that case, it may come about the disagreement between the federal government and the New Hampshire government as to what cryptocurrency actually is.
Right, it's a computing platform, isn't it? Or it's computing power?
New Hampshire recognizes it as, in my opinion, the correct way is what it is, which is computer code.
Right.
And computer code is speech. And so in New Hampshire, cryptocurrency is speech and thus regulated as freedom of speech, whereas the federal government recognizes it as an asset, right? A commodity, if you will. And so it's possible that these two things, come to a head with the Crypto 6 case.
End up in the Supreme Court, maybe.
We'll see, but there will be some precedent set, I think, by the time all is said and done.
But if it's speech, how could the federal government go against speech?
How can they tax speech?
You can't tax speech,
That's right.
can you? I don't know.
I've never heard of speech
We'll
being
find
taxed.
out.
Have you? Yeah.
Well, if anybody can do it,
they can
do it.
The IRS will take 6 years to figure that out.
They have all the guns, so all you need to do is threaten everybody.
Right.
Yeah. Also, previously, digital assets used in such activities had to be held for 10 years to be exempt from taxation in Germany. The ministry outlined that this is the first time when the subject has been addressed with a nationwide uniform administrative instruction. The officials vowed to keep dealing with the digital asset taxation policy and eliminate any arising issues. To do so, they will work in close coordination with federal tax authorities and blah, 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 government, this, that, and the other.
Authorities. I love that word. It's like officials.
So this is close, in my opinion. It's something new that is kind of undefinable, or it meets several definitions because of what it is. It also has the ability to change. I'm talking about cryptocurrencies in general, Bitcoin, any of them, right? Because they're code, right? If the folks who are maintaining the code and making sure that it stays up to date and it stays a working digital thing, right? If they decide it needs to change in some way, they just go ahead and write more code and make the change. That's how it works. So it's an adaptable thing, which is really going to be interesting when governments start trying to say, oh, you can't do this. And they go, oh, well, we'll just write some code around that.
Your Google web browser is a taxable asset.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So we'll see how that all turns out. Speaking of cryptocurrency, the United Arab Emirates biggest airline, Emirates, is set to use Bitcoin as a payment for flight.
So you can use computer code to fly around the world?
One of the United Arab Emirates leading airlines, Emirates Airline, said it has plans to add Bitcoin as a payment service. The airline is planning to recruit personnel to create applications that monitor client needs. Reports of the airline's plan to embrace Bitcoin come just a few weeks after it revealed its NFT and metaverse plans. As reported by Bitcoin.com News, the company's goal with the metaverse launch is to ensure the airline is aligned with the UAE's vision for the digital economy.
Wow. That's pretty good. I like that.
Cryptocurrency going mainstream, man. I mean, I don't know how much more mainstream you get than one of the major airlines.
You can fly to Washington, D.C.
603-283-6160. Coming up, Why is it when Mark Cuban says something that I've been saying, he's been hailed as a prophet, but I am called a conspiracy theorist? This is Free Talk Live.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Phone records, financial and location data, Prism, Tempora, X-Keyscore, Boundless Informant. Hey y'all, Scott Horton here for offnow.org. Now here's the deal. Due to the Snowden revelations, we have a great opportunity for a short period of time to get some real rollback of the national surveillance state. Now they're already trying to tire us by introducing fake reforms in the Congress. And the courts, they betrayed their sworn oaths to the Constitution and Bill of Rights again and again, and can in no way be trusted to stop the abuses for us. We've got to do it ourselves. How? We nullify it at the state level. It's still not easy, but the Off Now project of the 10th Amendment Center has gotten off to a great start. I mean it. There's real reason to be optimistic here. They've gotten their model legislation introduced all over the place, in state after state. I've lost count, more than a dozen. You're always wondering, yeah, but what can we do? Here's something important, something that can work if we do the work. Get started cutting off the NSA support in your state. Go to offnow.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power. But there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
And we're back. Final segment
of Free Talk Live is underway. We'll get to your calls and thoughts momentarily. In the studio, it's myself, the captain,
Big Kahuna, and Steve Classic.
And before we go on with the show, I want to take a minute to say thank you to Jack. Jack is a silver level amplifier, What is an amplifier, you might ask? No, it's not a piece of equipment that guitars make sound out of. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. And you can find out all about it over at amps.freetalklive.com. This is a way for you to contribute to our program and help us get on more radio stations. We're currently on somewhere near 200. We could be on 220, 250, 300 is not out of the question. It's all up to you. The money goes, as stated in the title, advertise, market, promote, and support to help get us to more listeners. So if you enjoy the hosts, the co-hosts, the topics, the callers, if you find value in what you're listening to and you want to help us spread the message of liberty, peace, and freedom to more people, consider becoming an amplifier over at amps.freetalklive.com. Thank you again, Jack, for your contribution. You are important, and we appreciate you.
You could be in Steve-topia in Georgia.
Steve-topia.
Start a new station down there.
Yeah. Hey, Steve-topia, you should be broadcasting us if you're not. So we have somebody on hold, but I wanted to we teased before going to the break there that Mark Cuban is saying something that I've been saying for a while. And people are like,
you're crazy.
Libertarians, and particularly like early adopters of like cryptocurrency, stuff like that, which we all are, generally have a higher rate of pattern recognition than, say, the average Joe. And I've attributed that to my opinion on cryptocurrency. I've been saying for a long time that cryptocurrency is following almost identically, there are some variations, but it's following the same technological adoption curve that the internet followed. And that we are currently in the we're probably right around the search engine wars time of the internet, right? When before Google took over, it was Netscape and Dice and Ask Jeeves and all that kind of thing. So I've been saying this for a long time. This from Fortune.com, Mark Cuban is reliving the internet boom when he looks to crypto. The, quote, consolidation phase, unquote, is coming, he says. And the consolidation phase, of course, does refer to right around the search engine wars time when everything just sort of like, the smaller companies started getting bought up by the bigger companies.
Pets.com went south like Shiba Inu.
The .bomb happened, right, instead of .com. All of that happened. So I have an article on that, but I want to get to Jack, who's calling from Washington. Jack, you're on Free Talk Live.
I was going to call about abortion, and then I thought, well, I'm going to say something about Mark Cuban.
All right.
But then I heard what you guys just said about Mark Cuban, and I am short of knowledge.
Well, so let me just say, so I've been saying that cryptocurrency is following the same tech curve as the internet has, and people are like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, or you're a conspiracy theorist, or whatever. They're calling me a hack or whatever. Mark Cuban says it, and they're like, oh, this guy is prophetic. He is a seer, and I'm like,
well, this is what I was going to say. He seems like how there's B movies.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the B billionaire, ironically enough. He's one way or the other. Sometimes he's a liberal, so he's a conservative. He owns basketball people, and that seems kind of racist.
He's the Tim Thomerson of, billionaires.
He's on that show where they have to give money away for inventions. I mean, that's every commercial on Words with Friends.
I guarantee you right now there are people searching, who's Tim Thomerson? Tim Thomerson was the B-est of B movie actors. He was in all of the B movies, and as soon as you see his face, you'd be like, oh, that guy. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, that's Mark Cuban, man. You just see him, oh, that guy. Yeah, he's in a meme. Yeah. The Republicans are like, "Yeah, he's so awesome," and then 2 seconds later, the Democrats are like, "Oh my God, he's amazing." Yeah, he's just a B billionaire.
Is that what you wanted to say about him?
Yeah, that I didn't know about the Bitcoin stuff, and I root for Bitcoin, and I am, I don't quite understand it. If there's one of those, what are they called, electromagnetic pulses or whatever.
EMP, yep.
Yeah, what happens if what happens to our Bitcoin.
Yeah, what happens to your bank account?
Well, okay, so if there is an EMP,
Yeah, exactly.
like you're not going to be
I
able to
thought
get
about
any cash out of your bank either.
Same
So,
thing. Yeah.
however, that being said, I covered I think we mentioned it in maybe a speed round a couple of weeks ago, that Doge, for the first time, it's a different cryptocurrency if you're not familiar with it, was transmitted via radio broadcast.
Oh, that's cool.
So in the case of an EMP, as long as somebody somewhere, and it's very likely because governments build bunkers, people build stuff in the sides of mountains or whatever. So there's going to be some electronics that still fire up post EMP, and as long as some of those electronics are left over and can fire up, well, if they have a copy of any blockchain on them, the blockchain can then still be used, and as soon as more computers get repaired or built or whatever it takes, the blockchain can continue as if nothing happened, and people can actually transmit value OTA, over the air, right, via regular ass radio, just like we're being broadcast on right now here on Free Talk Live.
Yeah. Well, I would say like Mark Cuban's talking about the internet, and I tell people about Bitcoin. I said, well, just pretend it's 1995, 1996, and there's this company called Amazon, and in the future, they're going to deliver everything to your house.
You mean the bookstore?
No,
that can never happen.
Crazy.
You mean the website for books?
Yeah, they're going to deliver everything, even baby formula.
That's a crazy concept.
Exactly. Like they're going to be worth.
Well, they're not going to be able to deliver
$1 trillion.
baby formula now.
No, not unless you're from Canada.
Here's a quote. Crypto. This is Mark Cuban. A quote from him. Crypto. It's actually a tweet that he tweeted.
Oh.
Crypto is going through the lull that the internet went through. Oh, thanks. Thank you, Captain Obvious. After the initial surge of the exciting apps, NFTs, DeFi, P2E, we saw the imitation phase as chains subsidized the movement of those apps to their chains, bandwidth, and storage subsidies startups in the 2000s. Thank you, Mark Cuban. You're such a brilliant prophet.
He's so much smarter than you, Captain.
I guess. Jack, did you have anything more to say? You said, I thought you had another topic.
I was just going to say, just nicely and politely, that I have family that remind me of a certain David from New Mexico, and they, with their knowledge of judges and their attention to detail, seem like they have a lot of times have a certain type of substance abuse that may put them in front of judges and make them have family problems. I'm being as polite as I can.
I see. You have a theory as to why a certain caller behaves in the manner that he does.
Yes, based on behavior I've seen before from close family.
Interesting.
So I care about him.
All right. Anything
I
else?
hope the best for him. No, that's it, man. Thanks, guys. Great show tonight. I don't know what you were doing, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
It's Kahuna. He's here.
It's Big Kahuna night here at Free Talk Live. Thanks for the call, Jack. We appreciate you. An excellent baptism for the Big Kahuna as well.
Oh, thank you. I had a great time.
Yeah, it's been fun, and we hope to do it again. We'll have some more shuffling around as time goes on, and people, take days off, and summer's here, and all that kind of stuff.
Big Kahuna night.
Yeah. So if you're around,
I will be around.
I'm happy to put you in the seat, of course. Just more.
So what else did Cuban say?
More on Cuban.
More on Cuban.
Right, yeah.
I like that. That's great.
After a recent surge of exciting blockchain-based innovations in the crypto space, we already read that, he compared this to the dot-com boom. Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
Yes. In the 2000s, when internet startups behaved similarly, launching copycat products and promising returns before the bubble burst. So he's saying that all these other cryptocurrencies, right. And what happened with these companies? This is called competition, right?
Right.
So you see Bitcoin, the sort of the big daddy right now of cryptocurrencies, and then Ethereum came along and said, well, we want to do that, but we also want to, they had a different philosophy. We want to build like a computer in the sky that people can develop programs on. And other people saw both of these applications and went, well, we can do that. And also, like, I'm a big fan of things like Monero, privacy coins in general, that type of a thing. So I want to see, more features being developed. I want to see features on individual coins become default features in coins that don't have them.
And the Bitcoin browser.
That'd be sweet. We're out of time. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you. Thank you, Big Kahuna. Thank you, Steve Classic. Thank you to our listeners. Peace.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores.